Welcome to On the Chain.
You always see this. This is like some of the posts you often see. Pro XRP attorney stresses need for Hinman and Clayton's testimony and Ripple. It's always like pro expert says, and you're like, so you have to click into it to find out who the pro XRP attorney is. Could be someone you know, could be someone you don't know. Just kind of how it goes. But look at this here. So it turns out, so you have to like scroll down to see who the pro XRP attorney is. Turns out Deaton points out that if Hinman and Clayton were to provide their accounts in court, it might reveal that XRP was initially considered a non-security by the SEC. This notion could have substantial implications for Ripple's case and the broader cryptocurrency industry. Think about that. That's what John Deaton said. John Deaton asked about that. This thing's just loaded with emojis, Jeff. On June 13th, 2018, SEC enforcement lawyers forwarded Bill Hinman an XRP Howey memo applying the Howey test to sales of XRP. That's the day before Hinman's infamous June 14th, 2018 speech. That was the one where he said BTC and ETH are non-securities, but guess what? The XRP Howey memo did not recommend in June 2018. It didn't recommend an enforcement action. Exclamation point. It didn't even recommend stop selling XRP. Cease and desist letter sent to Ripple, Garlinghouse, or Christian Larson. With Brad Garlinghouse and Joel Katz met, David Schwartz, at Clayton and Hinman a couple months later after the XRP memo was written. Brad told Hinman and Clayton that Ripple was living in purgatory because Hinman gave Bitcoin and Ethereum clarity, but not XRP, and asked what gives. Neither Clayton nor Hinman told them it was because XRP was a security. So we all know well that XRP, the Howey concluded something other than XRP as a security. Kind of makes you wonder why they filed the case and they were leaving the SEC forever, doesn't it? What do you think about that, Jeff?
That statement goes back to our original premise that we've had along the case the entire time is the big question mark. Why did they file the case? You know, they were very intelligent guys, both Hinman and Clayton. They made statements. I'm going to go based on that assumption. And
Hinman thought any prong of the Howey test qualified as a security. I'm wondering if that.
So, so if he didn't, if they never referenced XRP as a security until they filed the lawsuit. So all of a sudden the lawsuit drops but there was no statements leading up to that. And all of a sudden, here you go. Thank you very much. And his last statement that Deaton's making at that point, they leave the SEC forever, right? They're not coming back to the SEC. They're not, going to be rehired by the SEC. That was it. That was the last action of Clayton on his way out. Was here you go, file the lawsuit, and we're done. All right. So there's still going to be an open question mark there, and I think the only way anyone's ever going to find out is if he's going to be willing to talk about it. If he's going to come out at one point and say, hey, whatever the case might have been, at that moment in time, this is the fastest path to regulatory clarity. Congress is at this point there's no action coming out of Congress. They're completely inept. And if we want to see any type of movement in the space at large, that this is the case that it's going to be. It can't be Bitcoin, can't be Ethereum. There's really no one to go after per se. But with Ripple and XRP, it was easier for them to file a lawsuit because Ripple is a company and you can lump XRP into it because they're utilizing XRP as their primary asset, that would be built into the platform, especially with the ODL product. And so a lot of hype, the XRPL, etc. I don't know. I don't think any of us really know what that answer is.
Well, I don't think we'll ever will. But if we do get the investigation, then that can be a little bit different. But there's more commentary, Jeff. I don't know if you knew this, but Mark Fago, who is a retired securities attorney and former employee of the SEC, wrote this one based on Deaton's comments. Said, quick clarification for the law nerds out there. No such thing as an SEC cease and desist letter. they can file an enforcement action either as a district court injunctive action or as an administrative C&D proceeding, the latter of which they don't have any more and accept settlements. That was only because John referred to it as they didn't send a cease and desist. In other words, they didn't reach out. The SEC didn't reach out to Ripple or Larson or Garlinghouse after these conversations and say, you can't sell XRP. That was kind of what he was getting at. He said a cease and desist. And then John said, thanks, Mark. I appreciate the clarification. Mark Fagel jumped in there and said, by the way, I don't recall what's known about the 2018 memo. Is this something that was produced in a redacted form? Deaton said, no, Judge Netberg did an in-camera review, and unlike the speech emails, held that it was covered by privilege and that the SEC did not have to produce. She did, however, make a note in her decision to say that the Howey analysis memo did not make any recommendations. Mark Fagel said, so we don't know the state of the SEC's investigation of Ripple at that point because they could have learned a lot in the intervening 2 years. And isn't the fact that the court found them to have proven a Section 5 violation in part relevant? Deaton says, well, what I've always said, admitting that I'm surmising because I clearly haven't read the memo, and that memo was likely inclusive and stated that they needed more information, although the government had in its possession that XRP sale made by Ripple since 2015, probably not the two executives though at the time. What is obvious, in my opinion, is that it didn't conclude that XRP sales were clearly securities. Personally, I'm surprised that the two executives didn't seek a review of that part of Judge Netberg's ruling, considering the SEC must show recklessness. Remember, Jeff? Reckless. And the SEC enforcement lawyers couldn't conclude that 2018 XRP was a security. How could these two executives be reckless? And I agree, it's clearly privilege, but I thought it was a small chance that the judge would have found it discoverable because of no ability to obtain the evidence otherwise. It's a lot of wind there, but it's interesting. What are your thoughts about this?
A lot of, definitely a lot of, good information, but I'll still go on that same point. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it was just a very unusual circumstance. We've mentioned that before. An expector saying, MF is a typical bureaucrat.
Yeah.
And there you go.
And something else, but I'm not going to say the word, Jeff, because we've already done enough damage to one podcast. So I'm just going to keep it to myself.
Yeah. So there you go. I think, John Deaton's always, on top of things. He has a very good instinct on, how this whole thing unfolded, taking a lead in intervening, on behalf of investors. We've spoken about that a lot. I think as this case goes, forward against, or, if there's going to be an appeal or whatever there might be, in the future, it's going to be, the fact that XRP has been deemed a non-security holds a huge amount of weight. Right now, the SEC has made some big, bold statements that right now they're setting their crosshairs on AI and, crypto, but they just filed two big suits, against Coinbase. They've got Gemini in their crosshairs. They've got Binance in their crosshairs. They're taking on a lot of action, and I think it's going to backfire. I think across the board, we're seeing things backfire against this administration, and the SEC isn't drastically different, from the rest of the administration. And there's little brush fires that are popping up all over the administration, and the SEC is just one of them.
In the country as well, and the world, brush fires.
True.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.